Hello everyone. Have you ever been on a plane when a strong crosswind blows on it, or when the aircraft gets caught in a storm? What if its engines fail? Well, this is not the best thing that can happen to you. We wish you never to experience this. However, whenever something happens to the airliner during a flight, the pilots have to put in a lot of effort and demonstrate their skill to level the aircraft and land it without casualties. In this video, we have collected for you the 10 most extreme airliner landings, which miraculously ended successfully. But how ready are you to find yourself thousands of kilometers above the ground? Then let's go. Landing on the Hudson River. It may seem strange, but one duck or some other bird is sometimes enough to bring down an airplane. True, this happens very rarely, but nevertheless, here are the situations for passengers of the flight. Traces of Shiva from a New York to Seattle flight had to survive an emergency splashdown on the Hudson River after an Airbus A320 was attacked by a flock of gray-lag geese. Less than a minute after takeoff, the plane wobbled, and passengers saw flames belching from the engines. The geese, fried in the engines, disabled them. The pilot informed the air traffic control about the collision with a flock of birds and transmitted a distress signal. Seconds later, it became clear that he would not be able to keep the plane in the air and reach the runway. Risky, but the only way to save the crew of 150 passengers was to land on the Hudson River. Thanks to the incredible professionalism of the crew, everything turned out well, and the gray-haired but alive passengers climbed out onto the wings of the floating plane. They waited for the arriving rescuers, a roofless plane, and took a ride with the wind on the fastest and steepest you can go on rides at many amusement parks, but you've definitely never seen such extreme experiences. Passengers on a Boeing 737 once had to descend from 7,300 meters in a roofless airplane, with hurricane-force winds in their faces at 530 kilometers per hour. The short flight between the Hawaiian island cities of Hilo and Honolulu was supposed to take only 35 minutes, but at 23 minutes, when the airliner reached the required altitude, an explosive decompression occurred. The cockpit door and the roof of the Boeing over the first 6 rows were simply blown off. The passengers found themselves in the open air at a temperature of minus 45 degrees Celsius. Imagine, they hadn't yet had time to unfasten their seat belts, and this, fortunately, saved their lives. True, the flight attendants serving drinks scattered the passengers to different sides of the cabin, and the aircraft commander began emergency descent to 3,000 meters at a speed of over 500 kilometers per hour. In 11 minutes after the incident, the captain landed the plane on one right engine. Luckily, all passengers and crew members survived and remained unharmed. Landing over the beach. What do you usually do on the beach? You can probably relax and enjoy the peace and quiet, but only if it weren't for Maha Beach. On St. Martin's Island, the thing is that the beach is located in close proximity to the international airport. Planes fly so low that you can even be blown away by the air current, which local authorities constantly warn about. Princess Juliana Airport has a very short runway of only 2,180 meters, which forces planes to take off and land as low as possible. Sometimes they can't fly as low as 10 meters above the ground, which forces everyone to tourists are tempted to look up and point their cameras at passing aircraft. Landings near a huge crowd of people are dangerous, and no one knows how the next landing will end. But you could relax when such enormous, noseless planes fly overhead every few minutes. This story is pure heroism. On Thursday, July 27th, in Istanbul, Ukrainian pilot Alexander Akapov made a heroic landing of a Turkish Airlines passenger jet at Ataturk Airport. The plane, with a Ukrainian crew, took off from Istanbul's Borca Airport in northern Cyprus, and at an altitude of 4,000 feet. Hail smashed the plane's nose and the cockpit window. The captain decided to return. There were 121 passengers and 6 crew members on board. The Ukrainian pilots and 2 Turkish flight attendants demonstrated courage during this incident. The captain landed the plane blind, looking only through the window. It was simply incredible. When he did this, the entire apron at Ataturk Airport applauded. The pilots of the other planes flashed their lights and simply came on board to shake Alexander's hand. We think it's truly worthy of respect. A pilot overboard is unlikely to be found in the world. There's hardly a second person in the world who could have managed to ride on the roof of an airplane. Experienced pilot Tim Lancaster, with over 11,000 hours of flying time, was the captain of an aircraft flying from the UK to Spain in 1990. At 7:20 a.m., the plane took off from Birmingham Airport and headed for sunny country. 13 minutes later, the plane reached an altitude of 5,000 meters, and the captain calmly loosened his seatbelts. But then there was a roar, and the windshield on the captain's side flew off in an unknown direction, followed by the pilot himself by a lucky chance. His feet got stuck in the cockpit, and the poor fellow was slammed by a wild wind against the outside of the plane. The flight attendant grabbed the captain with both hands, not letting him go. He finally flew out the window. The co-pilot began an emergency descent and transmitted a mayday signal. They flew to the nearest airport to make an emergency landing. He was frostbitten, but alive. Tim was taken off the plane with broken arms, and 5 months later, he was back at the controls. The passengers and crew owe the mechanic his extreme adventure. Why? The day before this flight was the window in the plane. He attached it with the wrong bolts and was literally off by a millimeter in diameter. Whatever the case, even the most daring Hollywood stuntmen wouldn't do such a thing. Let's tell you, a cloud of smoke. The Boeing 747 airliner was about to embark on a routine long flight from London to Auckland, New Zealand, with several stops in India, Malaysia, and Australia. But a few minutes after the night takeoff, something ominous began to happen on a plane from Kuala Lumpur. The cabin suddenly filled with smoke, and the cockpit windows were covered with flickering sparks. This phenomenon is known to pilots as St. Elmo's fire. It can be observed on the wings of airliners during thunderstorms, but weather radar indicated a storm. In an instant, a flickering white light engulfed the entire aircraft, and passengers could see flames erupting from all 4 engines. To everyone's horror, they all failed. The co-pilot and flight engineer tried many times to restart them, but to no avail. It seemed all was lost. But then, a true miracle happened. At an altitude of 4,100 meters, the 4th engine suddenly started, and then all the others came to life. The plane was able to fly to Jakarta Airport and land there. 248 passengers and 15 crew members disembarked unharmed on an erupting island, and it turned out to be a cloud of volcanic ash. Where the aircraft landed, the Gimli glider is so funny. It was Air Canada's Boeing 767 that once performed the amazing feat of carrying 132 tons of fuel, with its engine stopped, carefully glided from an altitude of 12,000 meters and landed safely at the abandoned Gimli Air Base right during an auto race. This is simply incredible, but the situation was further complicated by a power shortage, which, in addition, disabled many flight instruments, and the hydraulic pressure became so low that the pilots could barely move the ailerons and rudders. The crew demonstrated their best skills, and no one was injured. The cause of the incident was an error by ground crews at the Ottawa airport, who confused kilograms and pounds. Just imagine. And as a result, the aircraft's tank received less than 5 tons of kerosene instead of the required 20 tons. The situation was saved only by the presence in the cockpit of an experienced pilot who knew about the existence of the abandoned airbase, and probably by luck somewhere in the taiga. On September 7, 2010, in the remote Siberian wilderness, an Al-Rosa Tu-154 aircraft en route from Yakutia to Moscow landed. So what's the big deal, you ask? The thing is, 3.5 hours after takeoff, it experienced a complete loss of power. Most of the instruments shut down. The fuel pumps became impossible. The wing mechanization control and the service tank in the fuselage contained a reserve of fuel, which was only enough for 30 minutes of flight. Having descended to an altitude of 3,000 meters, the pilots began searching for a suitable landing site for the 80-ton monster, and here it is. Good luck. A concrete runway of the airport appeared ahead, called Press. It's true, it's very short, only 1,350 meters. The pilots were able to land the poorly controlled plane, but stopping on the runway proved impossible. The Tu-154 had to be rolled right into the village, but everything ended well. None of the 72 passengers and 9 crew members were injured. The highway is faulty. How would you react if you hadn't released the 6 on board the plane you were flying in so peacefully? We would definitely have been stricken by such a soft landing. We believe the same thing happened to the passengers of the airliner that landed in Boston. There were 116 passengers and 5 crew members on board. For some unknown reason, the nose landing gear did not fully deploy, and the pilots decided to land the plane without it. The plane's nose plowed 30 meters along the runway, but nevertheless, the aircraft sustained minimal damage, and naturally, none of the passengers or crew members were injured. The captain was definitely a good man and did everything correctly. Landing in a storm is not the most pleasant thing that can happen to an airliner, but unfortunately, this happened. The plane that landed in Hamburg did not foreshadow trouble. However, strong gusts of wind, up to 120 kilometers per hour, associated with the passage of Hurricane Emma, began to throw off the course. Despite all the difficulties, the brave pilot decided to try to land, but when the plane almost touched the ground, a strong gust tilted Gleb's plane. So, at a speed of 250 kilometers per hour, the left wing hit the ground. Fortunately, the pilot managed to level the plane, but the plane went off the runway, which required some action. Something had to be done. The crew then got the Airbus back into the air, and ultimately, a tragedy was avoided after making a major landing at the airport. The plane landed successfully despite serious wing damage. Friends, if you have any exciting flight stories, share them in the comments. And if you think airplane pilots are real pros, like cool gadgets, future technologies, amazing inventions, and other cool tech-related features on the Tech Zones channel, subscribe. You won't regret it. The link is on the screen and in the description. That's all.